Turn the floor over to Dr. Sonia Nizey, Chief Financial Officer and Deputy Superintendent for Operational Support, who will present a budget workshop. Dr. Nizey.
Okay, it's on now. Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to give you an update of where we are at in the development of the 23-24 budget. First, I'm going to start off talking a little bit about what's happened this summer. It's been a very busy, eventful. $100,000. It also prohibits school districts and other governments from repealing any local optional homestead exemption, which Galena Park does offer its taxpayers. And then it also includes maintenance and operations and a debt service hold harmless that will give us some funding to compensate us for what they are taking away by reducing of those property taxes. The interesting thing is that none of this is possible without a constitutional amendment, and this constitutional amendment will not go to the public until the November general election. So right now we're building budgets and we're building estimates as if this is going to happen, but again, it's all contingent on what happens at the November general election. So if voters understand what they're voting for and hopefully they vote for these tax reductions, then all of these mechanisms will go into place. So again, on the compensation plan, we had adopted a general pay increase of 3% of midpoint. That increased our starting teacher and nurse pay up to $64,450. All returning experienced teachers will receive a $2,000 increase. We also had a word from Teacher Retirement System. Their board took action to approve health insurance rates for 23-24, and unfortunately there were some increases there of 6.8 to 7.2%, so roughly 7% increase on average. We did negotiate contracts to continue our employee assistance plan, which we've offered for several years here at Galena Park, and then also our telemedicine plan, which covers those employees who can't afford to take the district insurance or they're having to use the high deductible plan. So the other big thing that happened is that the appraisal districts across the state are required to supply us with some property value estimates at different times, key points in time. So we received an estimate in April that was $11.9 billion for the 23 year. And then we get a new estimate on July 25th, and now we've gone up to $13.2 billion. So we had a considerable increase beyond where we were originally projected. So this is an 18% increase over the 22 taxable value for the district. This was not projected for us, so we weren't expecting this type of increase. And really where this impacts us at is that it works to determine what our maximum compressed tax rate is. The maximum compressed tax rate is a very important component of the tax rate. And the truth to it is we had to submit a lot of reports to the Texas Education Agency by the first of this week. They will give us authorization to set a rate and what that amount would be. And it was interesting because the template they gave us to use, they told us up front wasn't right because they're still working through the legislation that's coming out, and they're waiting for statewide numbers that really establish where we're going to be at. So I'm going to be honest with you, some of these numbers that I'm showing you tonight, they're all still yet to be determined. And we probably won't know what those numbers are for a couple of weeks, and the truth is we won't know what some of them are until November, and then we'll have to amend the budget at that point. The most important thing here, though, that I want you to keep in mind is that property value here does not change our overall revenue. So we're still getting the same overall revenue. It only changes whether it's locally funded or whether it's funded by the state. So the higher our values go up and the more we're able to generate money locally, then the less state aid we receive. So that's how it works. It does change the debt service. So it does change how much bonded debt that the district can issue. So that's where it really is key. Okay, so on this slide, on our budget assumptions, these basically are the same as before. The one difference here is that on the tax rate, this is significantly different, and again, it's because of this maximum compressed rate that I just told you about that TEA is requiring. So this is a 20-cent reduction from last year. So if property values hold where they're at and TEA does not change the formulas, then our taxpayers would realize not just that 10-penny reduction that I just talked about that was mandated, they're going to receive an additional reduction beyond that. So it would actually go down over 20 cents. Okay, so again, here's what we have proposed for the general fund budget. This is slightly different from what you saw when we presented in June. And again, I can't emphasize enough, this is really honestly, this was what it was as of last Thursday. And I have a feeling that by this Thursday, it will probably change depending on where our estimates come in from the state and also that on that tax value, and then also what the appraisal district does with our final values. And then we are also continuing to work through the implementation of the compensation plan. So when we talked about the general fund budget in June, there was a slight $2 million deficit. Right now it's showing about $1 million surplus. So it's a slight change from there, but I do expect these numbers to change somewhat. I don't think significantly, but I do think they will change. There are two other funds that the board is required to adopt in addition to the general fund. It's the Child Nutrition Fund and the Debt Service Fund. So you haven't seen these numbers before for tonight. We won't adopt tonight. It won't be till later in August, but I wanted you to at least see these numbers. Our Child Nutrition Fund, it's projected at a slight deficit right now, but it's because we are trying to spend down some surplus funds that are in that fund. Some of that money is actually money that's being generated in the current year, and we have a spend down plan that's been approved by the state where we will spend some of those funds. So that's why it's projected as a deficit next year. The Debt Service Fund, again, right now it shows a surplus, but the truth is this number is going to change because it's all property value driven. So until we know exactly what our final property values are, I can't tell you what you're going to need to set your tax rate at. So this slide just assumes the tax rate that the district is currently at. So, and it's a little more than 31 pennies for the Debt Service Fund. So our next steps, we're going to be continuing to reevaluate additional expenditure needs and fine-tune all of those numbers, including the compensation We're required by law on August 10th, we have to post a public notice that we are going to be discussing the budget and a proposed tax rate. That public hearing will take place on August the 21st at 4 p.m. That night is also when we'll recommend action to you to actually adopt the 23-24 budgets for the three funds that I presented this evening. We don't anticipate that we'll get final property values until August 28th, well after budget adoption. September 1st, the campuses and departments can start using the money. October the 10th, I think that we're required by law for you to adopt a tax rate. And then, of course, we have the statewide referendum that's going to be pending for November the 8th. So does anyone have any questions about where we're at and what we're proposing at this point?
I guess this is the first year in a couple of years we don't have a deficit budget, it looks like.
On
The debt service, well, on the
On
child
that-
nutrition,
And yes, and one of the main reasons is because we've been generating a surplus, and so the Texas Department of Agriculture limits the amount of surplus that we can generate in that fund. So at some point, they require us by law to spend it, and if we don't spend it, then
Then we lose
they
it.
take the funds
Yeah.
back. So we've been working on a spending plan that we've actually implemented in 22, 23, and it will continue into 23, 24, so that's why you're seeing a slight deficit there. So if we were to take that plan out and we didn't have to worry about spending those funds, we would have a surplus in the child nutrition fund.
well, I guess another good thing, I mean, we're still offering free lunch and breakfast for
Yes,
everybody,
yes,
so that makes a
yes.
big,
Yeah, we're a
That's
community
good.
eligibility provision district, yeah. And it actually generates revenue, so, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nazy. There being no other business before the board at this time, the meeting is adjourned. The time is 5:32 p.m. A quorum is present. I will now call this meeting to order. An executive session of the board will now be held on matters contained in the notice for this meeting as authorized by sections 551.001 through section 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. Vote be required with regard to any matter considered in such closed or executive meeting or session, then such final action, final decision, or final note shall be at either this public meeting, upon the reconvening of the public meeting, or at a subsequent public meeting of the board upon notice thereof, as the board shall determine. A closed executive meeting of the board will now be held. The time is 5:33 p.m. session. The time is 5:58 PM. I will entertain motions on the items covered in executive session. Is there a motion to approve Terry Moore's assignment of substitute?
I, Wanda Johnson, move we approve Terry Moore's assignment of substitute as presented.
Linda Sherrod, second that motion.
A motion was made by Wanda Johnson and seconded by Linda Sherrod. All in favor? The motion carries 6-0 with no abstentions. Is there a motion to approve the Chapter 21 term contract recommendation beginning in 2023-2024 and authorize the Executive Director for Human Services to notify the related employee of the contract recommendation?
I, Norma Hernandez, move we approve the Chapter 21 term contract recommendation beginning in 2023 to 2024 as presented.
I, Wanda Johnson, second the motion.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Where are we? Oh, the motion was made by Norma Hernandez and seconded by Wanda Johnson. All in favor? The motion carried 6-0 with no abstentions. Is there a motion to approve the employment for contractual personnel?
I, Jose Jimenez, move that we approve the employment of contractual personnel as presented.
I, Norma Hernandez, second the motion.
A motion was made by Jose Jimenez and seconded by Norma Hernandez. All in favor? The motion carries 6-0 with no abstentions. Is there a motion to approve the potential letter of non-objection to Gulf Streams for foreign trade zone exemptions and the delegation of authority to the superintendent or designee to negotiate the associated payment in lieu of tax pilot agreement?
I, Wanda Johnson, move we approve the potential letter of non-objection to Gulf Streams for foreign trade zone exemption is presented.
I, Jose Jimenez, second that motion.
A motion was made by Wanda Johnson and seconded by Jose Jimenez. All in favor?
Abstain.
The motion carries 5-0 with one abstention. A quorum is present, and I will now call this public hearing to order. The time is 6 p.m. Ms. Holly Malloy, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction and Professional Development, will provide the annual performance report for the district's operational flexible school day program for the 2022-2023 school year. She will review the purpose of the program and the application for the 2023-2024 school year. This is the Texas Education Agency requirement.
Hi, good evening, President Esparza, Dr. Moore, Board, and Cabinet. So tonight I'll review with you our optional flexible school day program and the benefit that it has for our students. And then I'll ask if you have any questions, and I'll ask the public if they have any comments. And then later on in the agenda, you'll see that we're asking you to approve our application for the 23-24 school year. So the goals of our optional flexible school day program is just to allow flexible hours and days of attendance for our students. And that's in order to improve graduation rates for any of our students, but specifically for those in danger of dropping out of school, who are dropped out, or who are behind in their core subject courses. We offer this program for all of our high school students served at Galena Park, North Shore, and CTE Early College High School. These needs are met through different means, such as credit recovery. We offer night school, our Accelerated Center for Education. They can go to day and evening classes, and they can have flexible hours and days through this program. This past year, we had a year full of achievements with 121 students served through our program, 205 credits earned, and 19 graduates. Do you have any questions, or does the public have any comments?
Thank you, Ms. Malloy. The public hearing is adjourned. The time is 6:02 p.m. Ready? The Board of Trustees of Galena Park Independent School District is now convened in a regular meeting on Tuesday, August 1st, 2023, in the Administration Building of Galena Park Independent School District, the address of which is 14705 Wood Forest Boulevard, Houston, Texas 77015. The time is 6:03 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Galena Park ISD Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by Section 551.071 to 551.084, inclusive of the Texas Government Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in Galena Park Independent School District. We have no public comments for posted agendas today. Non-agenda items, we have public comments for non-agenda items today. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concerns or interest to the district, other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. I would like to remind the audience that the comments of the speakers reflect their own positions and opinions. The board may not discuss or act upon any of the matters that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. Therefore, board members may not discuss the comments of speakers. Please understand that the lack of response from the board members does not indicate agreement or approval of the comments. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the board. The vice president of the board will be the designated timekeeper. Ms. Maritza Cortez, will you please step up to the podium? Okay, Ms. Cortez isn't here. Ms. Kim Tops, will you please step up to the podium?
So good evening and happy Tuesday and welcome to the month of August. My name is Kim Tops. I am a senior software engineer at NASA, and I also am an entrepreneur, and I'm a proud graduate of Galena Park High School 1990. And I am here this evening because I belong to a volunteer organization, and I was asked to coordinate a voter registration drive at both of the high schools, Galena Park High School and North Shore High School. And the response I received was that we were not allowed to bring in organizations to register students to vote. And at the time, we were trying to hit that deadline before the students, because you have another set that'll be of age before they graduate. And we wanted to give them the opportunity to be able to register to vote and understand that process and provide voter education as well. And as a volunteer of the League of Women Voters, I've been a deputy volunteer probably since I was 18 or 19, since college, and have registered by myself 35 to 40,000 people. I did not understand why we were not allowed to come into the organization or come into the specific schools and register voters, while we've been registered voters all over the United States, but also specifically at the school districts here in the Houston metropolitan area.
And so I wanted to discuss that this evening and see if we could get a resolution and to figure out why wouldn't anybody want citizens to take off work and come in, spend that time with your students, whether it's voter education, careers, whatever that is. We want to make sure that we provide that connection to students so that they have the information that they need so that they can be successful citizens, and that includes voting. And I think all of your positions here are elected positions as well. So it was really hard for me to understand why we weren't allowed, or anyone allowed, to come in. And I know that I have been to both those schools in the past. So I didn't know what had changed, but I said, well, let me come here and find out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hobbs. Tonight's invocation will be presented by myself, Noe Esparza, and the pledges to the American and Texas flags will be led by the North Shore Senior High School, AFJROTC. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please bow your heads. Father God, we gather here today under your care and protection. We thank you for those of us that you will guide us and that you will guide our thoughts, Lord, and our actions. Strengthen us and fill us with your peace. As we get ready to start the school year, we ask that you wrap your arms around our students, staff, and community. May they find comfort in knowing that your angels are with them to guide them and protect them. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. We will now move on to this evening's special recognition portion of the agenda. Dr. Moore?
I understand, but we do appreciate you coming and spending a little time with us tonight, so thanks so much. All right, so we've had quite a few changes in our hierarchy of school business, which has created some opportunity for some people to be promoted, and we're really excited about that. There's a few old people that work in Galena Park that have decided to go home, and I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting there, and which has created some opportunity for some of our younger folks, and we're really excited. So we're going to go through a list of people. While you're going to see a lot of people in new positions, there may only be one or two of the people you see coming across the stage that are actually new to our school district. Most of these folks have been in Galena Park for a long time.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Just before we bring you guys on stage, Dr. Moore, Superintendent of Schools, would like to begin the evening's recognition by recognizing the new Board of Trustees officers for the 2023-2024 school year. Mr. Noe Esparza, this year's board president, please come forward. Mrs. Norma Hernandez, vice president, and Mr. Ramon Garza, board secretary. Thank you for your service to the community and congratulations. Trustee Wanda Heath Johnson, would you please come forward and assist with tonight's recognitions? Galena Park ISD recognizes the following administrators and their new 23-24 school year assignments. When your name is called, please join Dr. Moore on stage. Please hold your applause until all names have been called. Dr. Joe Coleman, Senior Director for Secondary School Administration. Dr. Coleman most recently served as principal at North Shore Senior High School. He has 31 years of experience in education. Mr. Jaime Rocha, Senior Director for Elementary School Administration. Mr. Rocha most recently served as principal at Galena Park Elementary School. He has 24 years of experience in education. Mr. Richard Lee Ramirez, Senior Director for School Operations. Mr. Ramirez most recently served as principal at Galena Park Middle School. He has 19 years of experience in education. Mr. James Klein, Senior Director for Risk Management and Non-Exempt Services. Mr. Klein most recently served as Director for Professional Development and has 21 years of experience in education. Mr. Lowell Lee Brown, Director for Grounds. Mr. Brown most recently served as as principal at Cloverleaf Elementary School. He has 33 years of experience in education. Ms. Kimberly Golliher, Director for PEAMS and Data Quality. She most recently served as Director of PEAMS and Data Quality at Aldine I.S.D. She has 23 years of experience in education. Ms. Jennifer Roach, Director for Professional Development. Ms. Roach most recently served as Director for Elementary English Language Arts and Social Studies. She has 20 years of experience in education. Mr. David Pearson, Principal at North Shore Senior High School. Mr. Pearson most recently served as Principal at North Shore Ninth Grade Center. He has 35 years of experience in education. Ms. Barika Norris, Principal at North Shore Ninth Grade Center. Ms. Norris has most recently served as Associate Principal at North Shore Ninth Grade Center. She has 19 years of experience in education. Ms. Elizabeth Nava, Principal at Galena Park Middle School. Ms. Nava most recently served as Assistant Principal at Galena Park Middle School. She has 15 years of experience in education. Ms. Ashley Barrett, Principal at Normandy Crossing Elementary School. Ms. Barrett most recently served as Assistant Principal at Normandy Crossing Elementary. She has 17 years of experience in education. Ms. Irene Benzor, Principal at Galena Park Elementary School. Ms. Benzer most recently served as Principal at Normandy Crossing Elementary School. She has 21 years of experience in education. Dr. Victoria Garcia Hernandez, Principal at MacArthur Elementary School. Dr. Garcia Hernandez most recently served as Assistant Principal at North Shore Elementary School. She has 12 years of experience in education. And Ms. Maria Munoz, Principal at Cloverleaf Elementary School. Ms. Munoz most recently served as Principal at MacArthur Elementary School. She has 24 years of experience in education. Congratulations to each of you. Please give them a round of applause. This concludes the recognition portion of our board meeting. Thank you.
Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member, or may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this time. Does anyone have a comment?
I do.
Ms. Rhodes?
Mr. President, I would just like to publicly congratulate these outstanding administrators. I'm sitting here, some of them were my students, some of them I've watched when they first came into the profession called education, and I am so excited. You guys go forth and make us proud in Galena Park ISD.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had the opportunity to visit the Make It, Take It Center about 3 weeks ago, and I was very, very impressed. If y'all have not gone out and visited, now is the time because the last day is Friday. I know that Liz Layler can speak more about it, but when I went there was a couple coming out. It was a man and a woman, and they had 2 children. Their hands were full of supplies that they had made and were taking it back home. They were still going to cut it up. But the lady said, "This is my first year to teach, and this is like Christmas." She loved it. Then I went inside and I saw all the equipment. Teachers can come, make copies, colored copies, make manipulatives, teaching tools. It's an amazing place to go. I know that Elizabeth Layler gave me numbers of teachers who had visited there and who have made their manipulatives. And it's just so awesome to see. I wish that when I was teaching, we would have had that center. I mean, they even had their own children coming and cutting. They're laminating, their copiers. There was a tutor there as well, and he was ordering things for teachers that we may not have had in that center. The center is at the Ag facility in Galena Park. And I would like to say this is one reason Galena Park ISD is so great.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Anybody else? You good? Okay. We now come to the business portion of tonight's meeting. We invite and encourage you to stay for the remainder of the meeting. However, if you need to leave early, we understand, and this is a convenient time to do so. We appreciate your attendance. Please come again. Jared Link, Executive Director for Human Resource Services, will present the Texas Association of School Board Policy Manual Update 121 as presented for the Board of Trustees review and adoption at first and final reading.
Hey, good evening, President Esparza, Dr. Moore, members of the board, Ms. Valdez, Cabinet. Today we have in front of the board TASB Update 121. We do have several local policies in 121, so we'll go through them quickly. The recommended changes in 121 involve fixed assets, integrated pest control, competitive bidding, competitive sealed proposals, compensation plans, admissions, and bullying. The first policy we have is CCGB Local involving economic development. The Texas Economic Development Act expired on December 31st of 2022, so the changes to this policy basically are extending that act going forward. CFB Local Accounting. Revisions regarding the capitalization threshold are based on an amended guidance from the GASB Implementation Guide 2021-1, specifically question 5.1, regarding the capitalization of assets with individual acquisition costs below the threshold if the assets in the aggregate are significant. This change will go into effect, or did go into effect June 15th of 2023. CKE Local, Safety Program Risk Management. This requires a memorandum of understanding between a school district, police department, and local law enforcement agencies that may have overlapping jurisdiction. The memorandum of understanding has to outline reasonable communication and coordination efforts among district police departments and other agencies. CLB Local, Buildings and Grounds. This has to do with integrated pest management, and it was amended to include district-owned residential property among the district facilities subject to the IPM requirements. This is interpreted that it's involved with any district property that houses students. I don't think this really applies to Galena Park. COA Local, Food and Nutrition Management. The revisions are recommended to update the position of the employee responsible for overseeing procurement with federal child nutrition funds and for determining whether the district will apply a geographic preference when procuring certain products. CRF Local, Insurance and Annuities. There is no actual change to this policy other than the updating of the acceptance date of the policy, the new adoption date. CVA Local, they're just removing the word designee from this policy. Policy BJA Local has already delegated the authority to the superintendent for all needs in the district, so therefore there's no reason to have the word superintendent or designee in the policy. They just removed the word. That exact same thing with CVB Local. They just removed designee. DEA Local, Compensation. This has to deal with the frequency of pay, and they are replacing the word bi-monthly with semi-monthly. FD Local has to deal with admissions. Recommended revisions of this policy at the transition assistance reflect the repeal and replacement of an administrative code provision regarding awarding credit to a student who is homeless or in substitute care. Under the new rule, the district must adopt a policy to ensure credit has been awarded appropriately prior to enrollment. And the final policy is FFI Local, dealing with student welfare and freedom from bullying. This is just an amendment to the minimum standards of reporting, and this was the TEA adopted these in January of 2023. Are there any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ling. Harold Sonny Fletcher III, Senior Director for Facilities Planning and Construction, will provide a 2016 bond program construction update.
Good evening, President Esparza, Board, Dr. Moore, and Cabinet. There we go. Pivot Elementary School. We're seeing phase 2. That's obviously the structural steel is up in the air. There's a parking lot that just got completed that they'll be able to use for the upcoming school year. So some great progress there. Sidewalks were poured, just going along really nicely. Some fencing's going up, those kind of things there. Galena Park High School phase 2, of course. Picture on the right is typically the band's practice field. They're to the east of the campus, and of course you can see the new facility, career technology, and the new cafeteria going up in the background. This is one of our ESSER projects. We're replacing the roofing. They're on building B. That's the middle building at Woodland Acres Middle School. Wrapping up here in the next couple of days. Getting what we call the cap sheet on that roof. Be wrapping that up. These are always difficult pictures to show. So uninteresting, but new air conditioning equipment. It's an ESSER project, ESSER funded project as well. That's going well at Purple Sage. And yet again, another ESSER project. Great news happened on this today. Many times you all ask me about schedule impacts, things like that. I'll give you an example. On this project, the chillers weren't scheduled to arrive until later this week. It was something we expected them to arrive about a month ago. So what we have experienced is during the design phase, manufacturers are promising one delivery date. Then come construction, the actual delivery date is something much, much further in the future. So the good news, chiller showed up on the truck yesterday. They installed one chiller today, get the other one in here in the next few days. Building still has air conditioning. We had a backup chiller, so all was well. Had a plan, worked through it. But just one of the many challenges we're getting to deal with post-COVID. Another ESSER-funded project, water line was replaced. New water line was installed completely for Cunningham and Tice. Be pouring the last little bits of concrete over the next couple of days there. And that's where a bore pit, they lay a big piece of equipment in there and bored the pipe in. So they didn't have to open excavate the whole project. And in general, I wanted to talk about scheduling, and on Galena Park High School, for instance, the chillers, I'm kind of repetitive there. The chillers, we're gonna have an issue with delivery, but the contractor's already mitigating that for us, and they're gonna get us some temporary chillers. And we have a plan to do those kind of things. So wanted you to know, we're still experiencing pseudo-COVID related things, but even more than that, equipment is getting delivered and it's not the exact equipment with the exact options we require showing up, so they're having to modify it in the field. It's a new, I've never seen that in construction. Shop drawings are prepared, they get approved, that's what the equipment's supposed to have and show up. That's not the case. It's showing up without doors, a coil, a chilled water coil, the most important coil this time of year in an air handler, it's missing. So we're working through that. Contractors, we've got an exceptional bunch on our ESSER projects this summer and doing a great job for us. What questions might you have?
Sonny, you know I'm always going to ask you something, even
Yes,
though
sir.
I've been over there in the old band section. Well, now it's like the lay down yard.
Yes.
That grass on the outside of the fence, for a while didn't get mowed for a long time. I think they just mowed it recently.
Yes.
Are we doing that, or is the contractor supposed to maintain that?
I would expect the contractor to do that, and I'll make sure the contractor does that.
Okay.
We were bugging them. We were reminding them of that requirement.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
we'll
I'll remind you now whenever I see it. But I was
Thank you,
gone for
Mr.
about 3 weeks. So, but it was cut this Sunday when I went to church. So
I drove by today and it was cut. So
yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you, Sonny.
Sonny, do we know what the delay is going to be on the chillers at Galena Park High School?
They're due to arrive before substantial completion, which is early 2024, but not in time to get the building dried in and start the drywall and paint and those kind of things. So I'm hesitant to give you an exact date because they give us a day and then they move it 2 weeks. Or they won't give you a date at all. Sometimes that's been happening. So we're anticipating it January.
Okay.
But that's...
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. We now move on to new business. Is there a motion to approve naming Linda Clark Sherrard as delegate and Jose Jimenez as alternate to the 2023 TASB Delegate Assembly to be held on September 30th, 2023?
Wanda Johnson. Wanda Johnson move we approve naming Linda Clark Sherrard as delegate and Jose Jimenez as alternate to the 2023 TASB Delegate Assembly as presented.
I, Norma Hernandez, second the motion.
A motion was made by Wanda Johnson and seconded by Norma Hernandez. All in favor? The motion carries 6-0 with no abstentions. Is there a motion to approve the additions, revisions, and deletions to district policy as recommended by TASB Policy Service and according to the instruction sheet for TASB Localized Policy Manual, Update 121 at first and final reading?
I, Norma Hernandez, move we approve additions, revisions, or deletions to TASB Local Policy Manual Update 121 as presented.
I, Jose Jimenez, second that motion.
A motion was made by Norma Hernandez and seconded by Jose Jimenez. All in favor? The motion carried 6-0 with no abstentions. Is there a motion to approve the renewal for the period of September 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2024 for general liability, auto liability, and physical damage, educators' legal liability, and crime insurance provided by Texas Political Subdivision Joint Self-Insurance Fund through an interlocal agreement?
Linda Sherrod. Move we approve the renewal for the period of September 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2024 for general liability, auto liability, and physical damage, educators' legal liability, and crime insurance as presented.
I, Jose Jimenez, second that motion.
A motion was made by Linda Sherrod and seconded by Jose Jimenez. All in favor? The motion carried 6-0 with no abstentions. With respect to the general consent agenda, do we want to remove any item for a separate vote or take the agenda as is?
I, Norma Hernandez, move we approve the general consent agenda as presented.
I, Wanda Johnson, second the motion.
A motion was made by Norma Hernandez and seconded by Wanda Johnson. All in favor? The motion carried 6-0 with no abstentions. With respect to the financial consent agenda, do we want to remove any item for separate vote or take the agenda as is?
Ramon Garza, move we approve the financial consent agenda as presented.
I, Jose Jimenez, second that motion.
A motion was made by Ramon Garza and seconded by Jose Jimenez. All in favor? The motion carried 6-0 with no abstentions. The following documents were presented to the board for information. Dr. Sonia Nizy, Chief Financial Officer and Deputy Superintendent for Operational Support, presented 1, the Certificate of Tax Collection Rate, 2, the Tax Collection Report for May 2023, 3, Tax Collection Report for June 2023, 4, the 2016 Bond Program Financial Report as of June 30th, 2023, 5, Federal grant received for the period of September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023, 6, General Fund Budget Summary, excuse me, for the period of September 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2023. 7, Quarterly Investment Report for the period of March 1st, 2023 through May 1st, 2023. May 31st, 2023, excuse me. Section B, Ms. Elizabeth Lader, Deputy Superintendent for Educational Support and School Administration, presented 1, Early Head Start Policy Council Meeting Minutes for May 2023, and 2, Early Head Start Update and Fund 205 Expenditure Report Summary from May 2023. There being no other business before the board at this time, the meeting is adjourned. The time is 6:36 p.m.
Yes.
Quick and easy.